the governor of California, Gavin Newsom, said he's worried because his son is listening to Joe Rogan. And I'm like, yeah, well, guess what? Joe Rogan didn't lie to his kid about the Ukraine war, about the truckers, about COVID mandates, vaccines, lockdowns. Guess who did? Gavin Newsom did, and the establishment. This idea that the corporate news and the government officials put forward that somehow we're at risk, imperiled by independent media spreading misinformation. Well, I'm here to tell you, we all know that the number one spreader of misinformation and lies is the government. The second is the corporate media. And third is everybody else. And it's a distant third. And so this idea that we have to worry about independent citizens having an opinion and sharing it on social media, that's the problem, again, is misdirection. It's having us turn on each other instead of turning on the powerful. And so we have to keep our eye on the ball. And what happened is, I remember when Christian Smalls, if you don't know who that is, he started the Amazon Union on Staten Island in New York City. And he was a black guy who got fired by Amazon at the beginning of COVID. And he stood out there and he organized those workers against them. And who did he organize with? He organized with Trump voters, because that's who is on Staten Island. That's who's working at that Amazon fulfillment center. So this is class. They don't want us coming together by class. That's why they stress identity politics. Let's remember what identity politics is. Instead of the establishment fixing a problem, what they do is they put someone in charge of the problem from a marginalized group. So now if you still complain about that problem, they can dismiss you as a phobe of some kind, a sexist, or a white supremacist. That's what that about. You know what I say? If it was 1860, the Democrats wouldn't be fixing slavery. They'd be bragging about their first transgendered slave owner. So this is real, and that's a joke, but it's also very serious, because they want us to identify as individuals, and they don't want us to identify along class lines, because that is the only thing that scares people. People from the left and the right and the center coming together to realize we have a common interest and a common enemy. That's the only thing that could scare them, and that's the only thing that will do anything to them. And that's why it was so important that they demonized the truckers in Canada. They had to call them white supremacists. They called them Nazis. And by the way, the truckers in Canada were vaccinated at a higher rate than the general population. They weren't protesting medicine. They were protesting bullshit authoritarianism. And they were right, and they were freedom fighters. But in the United States, our corporate media so propagandizes us that we can't tell the difference between a freedom fighter and a Nazi. We look at the truckers and we call them Nazis, and we look at the Nazis in Ukraine and we call them freedom fighters. That is the upside down, backwards world we have us living in right now.